Hello, everyone. Welcome back to The Tempest. Sam and Jack are joining you here right now. Jack is dressed like shit. I, however, am dressed like a winner. Right now, I'm wearing a very nice blazer and, some nice recently ironed pants. Whereas Jack
All
is
clean
just...
pressed, like the iron shirt, the whole deal.
Yeah. Jack is disgusting.
Yeah,
Jack is a mess.
I thought the pocket square was a little bit much, but like it matches the tie bar.
Well, we have to do this. We're recording a podcast. I have to dress this way. It's, an air of professionality. That's why I went to the bathroom before we started recording.
Yeah, I should do better than the tank top and cargo shorts.
Yeah. It looks like you're gonna all that tea you drink. You're probably gonna be wetting your pants during the recording.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, we've been kind of slacking, going a little late on the pod. I've just been so distracted. I read in the New York Post the other day that there's an election this year.
Yeah, so it seems. I haven't been made aware of that. Surprised voting's still a thing. Thought we stopped doing that a while ago.
So right now the story is that Biden went from a 15-point lead in the polls to now 1 or 2 points within the margin of error. It's basically neck and neck,
Yeah,
especially in some key swing states like Florida.
Last thing I heard from Fox was it was a 5-point lead. And he's still winning in 3 of the important swing states by substantial numbers, but the rest have closed up.
Yes,
It's looking a lot tighter than it was.
and Mike Bloomberg has just promised $100 million to help the campaign in Florida.
Yeah, but Mike Bloomberg also pledged $500 million to whomever the Democratic nominee was, even if it was Bernie, and it ended up being Biden. He's put in about $50 million so far. Because
He's slacking. Michael is slacking.
yeah, after he spent almost $1 billion on his own campaign and then lost, he said he would donate to the whatever Democrats he needed to win, but I don't think he's going to follow through on Florida or that one. Also, Biden's not going to win Florida no matter how much money Bloomberg pours into it.
Are you confident about that? Do you really think? Because people are talking about the map. It looks like he could flip Arizona, and I guess that would make up if he flipped Arizona and some of the key Midwest states like Michigan, Pennsylvania. It would make up for losing Florida. But apparently, no one has lost Florida and become president in a century.
Huh. That's interesting. The thing that makes Florida different from Arizona, in my opinion, is in Florida with Latin voters, it's about 50-50 Biden-Trump. It's split straight down the middle. In Arizona, he has close to 80%. Biden has close to 80%
Of Latinos.
which, of course, that's demographic. You start to see Arizona, that's going to be mostly Mexican immigrants versus Florida, which is largely Cubans, which tend to lean more conservative. But I still think that's much more indicative of Florida versus Arizona and how Biden can win one and lose the other.
There's nothing worse than expats,
Yeah.
specifically Cuban expats. They really are the scum of the earth.
They have an axe to grind with anyone left of center. So
Anyone to the left of Kissinger.
yeah, they will not reliably vote Democrat. I mean, you look at 2 most prominent Latin senators, and that's going to be Theodore Cruz and Marco Rubio.
Yeah. Ted Cruz. I was talking to you earlier about my how in 2016 he sort of was just like a meme, and people were like, "Oh, Zodiac killer," and now I want him to lose his next election.
2016 almost got me to feel some pity for Ted Cruz.
Yeah.
RNC, when he said "vote your conscience" and got booed and almost felt like he was going to get excommunicated from the party. I almost felt bad for the man, but no, Trump said bend thy knee, and he did, and now he's bending over backwards to appease the president.
Very insufferable asshat. And when I said lose his next election, I really meant die in Minecraft. Yeah, I was speaking in euphemisms.
Metaphorically speaking.
Yeah. What do you think caused this 10-point drop in Biden's polling advantage? Why? How did this happen? How did he go from, being, in the right place at the right time to now struggling to pull ahead?
I'm more hopeful than you, so I wouldn't call it struggling quite yet.
Okay, but you
But
can't deny he's went down in the polls. He had huge
yeah,
leads in Florida. Now Florida is going Trump. He had huge leads in other swing states. Now it's yeah.
I think it's because the Republicans, their pundits, whatever like focus groups they have found that the way to sort of hammer Joe Biden isn't through like the crime bill, isn't through any of that, because there was like a whole trend of things of them saying like, Joe Biden put like all these black people in jail, but surprisingly that doesn't really help you with a lot of the demographics that are already voting Republican. But the one that I think they've found has really stuck is Joe Biden is coming after the suburbs. What you're seeing in Kenosha, what you're seeing in Portland, what you're seeing in cities around the U.S. is coming to the suburbs. They're coming for you. They're going to take your house. They're going to make poor people live next to you. And if anything, that's what scares those white suburban voters the most, is the idea that there will be an affordable housing complex built within a mile of their home, and they think their community will be flooded with crime and drugs. And I think that's what's pushed people away from Joe Biden, is the fact that people can hammer this message in like the wake of all these protests.
Right, right. You can't see it, but I'm nodding. I'm slowly nodding as he makes his point. And yeah, so the campaign's tone has shifted a lot. Right after the conventions, it was right before the conventions. It was about the economy and coronavirus. It's about how Trump has completely failed. He's put us into a huge recession, one of the worst ever, the worst ever. And the death toll of the virus continues to surge. But it's completely shifted, and now it's sort of like 2004, when the most important thing we were talking about is the Iraq War, and what's going on with the Iraq War. And somehow the Republicans have found a way to completely change it. And in 2004 it was gay marriage. George Bush became obsessed with talking about how Democrats wanted to make gay marriage a thing, and now Trump has done it with the age-old, tried-and-true, soft-on-crime, and even being more open about it now with all this talk about the suburbs. Like, he's pretty explicitly saying Joe Biden will put black people in the suburbs.
Yeah, it's gotten very explicit. I think the funniest thing, or maybe not funniest, but the most revealing thing he's done has tried to make Cory Booker the face of this, like, sort of encroaching, like, movement of like people moving to the suburbs or people taking away your suburbs. Cory Booker, probably one of the most non-threatening, I'm not even going to say like African American senators, one of the most non-threatening senators, period.
Yeah.
Trump keeps trying to like put him up as this guy that's coming for you.
They went from Willie Horton to Cory Booker.
Yeah. And I just don't get how Cory Booker can be that sort of like symbol.
No, yes, he's not a frightening bone in his body, and but he does live in public housing. I think that's like a big thing for him.
Yeah, that's a big thing he's always done. Is he's lived in public housing whenever he's serving
right.
office.
That's it's very interesting.
But yeah, no. You mentioned the Willie Horton ad. That's exactly what it is. It's the tough on crime, like people. Which again, it's funny when you think about how hard they were trying to hit the crime bill early on, talking about Joe Biden putting all sorts of people behind bars, and they've just pivoted because that wasn't effective. They've just gone fully to aiming for the right.
Yeah, we will put more people in bars than Joe Biden.
Yeah.
And Biden has fallen for the ultimate trap, though. He's fallen for this.
Yeah.
He's now making ads about how tough on crime he is. He's talking about throwing anarchists in
He
prison.
just said he was gonna do more funding for the military.
Yes,
Increase police
yes.
funding.
He said Donald Trump has not given our military enough money. And look at the military budget right now.
Okay, let's see.
Yeah, please.
It's what is it? It's going to be like 3% of GDP, so that's going to be like 4 trillion, something obscene like that. Let's see. U.S. defense budget. Department of Defense discretionary budget of around 700 billion. Yeah, so it's gonna be, it's approaching a trillion. All comes down to what you count as military spending.
Right, yeah. And Biden, even though, I don't know, to be fair, if it exists a lot outside of Twitter, but if like actual protesters are doing this, people who are actually on the ground, but there have been growing more and more demands to defund the police, which obviously all that means is reallocating funds that would go to police towards things like social work and education, etc. But the phrase in of itself has sort of a negative connotation for a lot of people that aren't educated enough
Exactly.
on the concept of just changing a city's budget.
Actually, one of the things that I think is funniest about that is, can't remember, was it AOC that said defunding the police doesn't look like anarchy, it looks like the suburbs?
Yes, she did say that.
Yeah, that was AOC that said that.
That was a great quote from her, and it's a perfect example.
A great line of what defunding the police actually means and what it actually looks like in context.
Yeah. But I would say, like, a lot of this is getting into something we were going to talk about later, but I'll just allude to it right now. I think it's a larger problem with like the Twitter left versus the real left. Like, you know, like the fuck around and find out crowd. You know, when that unarmed black teenager was killed in Chaz, the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. You know, the fuck around. It's so funny because they immediately went like, well, you know, that kid was no angel. Like, they immediately like became the cops that they were. And I sort of feel like the Twitter left, the people who kept saying fuck around and find out throughout the Democratic primary, I think those people are sort of hijacking messaging sometimes, and they're just making it so much worse for everyone.
Yeah, it's the PR class, the public relations woke class.
The public relations woke class. Very, you know, I sort of feel like with Chaz, it was an experiment and it failed. You know, like the liberal solution was always hire more black cops, right?
Chaz failed, but here in Philly, especially with the homeless encampments, our autonomous zones are still going strong. You have JTD, you have
all right,
Teddy.
yeah.
It's a failed experiment there, but we've kept it going.
Well, okay, but how like they're not like armed is the point that I was going to get to. You have Chaz. The liberal solution, the Democratic Party solution, was like hire more black cops. That didn't work. You still have all these, you know, people of color being killed by cops. So that was failed.
Yeah.
And the Chaz response was give guns to people who had Tumblr accounts in the past. You know, only let people who use they them pronouns have guns, and so that's why I sort of have like really changed. Like, we just like gotta look for a future where there's no more police at this point. Like, nobody can do it.
Yeah,
it's, you know, and the Philly camps, which you mentioned, who are, you know, always on the cusp of being shut down.
Yeah, they've been having this standoff with the police for like the past couple of weeks, like 24/7, like rotating who's keeping watch.
Yeah. We should definitely. There's a lot of people at Temple on the ground in the camps right now. We should definitely try to get one or two of those people on the show, so they can probably do a better justice than our half-baked.
Yeah, we'll definitely go
ramblings.
Into this subject more in depth later. We both know lots of people that are very heavily involved with sort of setting up and manning these camps.
Yeah, talking about it now would be doing it a disservice, so we're going to kind of breeze past it.
Yeah.
And but anyway, I wanted to get back to what I was saying about Biden. he has sort of doomed himself because every ad he spends talking about how tough on crime he is, he's not spending an ad talking about coronavirus or the economy.
Exactly.
You know, that's not like gonna help him. It's first of all, it's gonna piss people off that would otherwise vote for him.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about Bernie Sanders supporters. I'm talking about like actual like mostly Black Americans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No. I think the trick isn't even really Biden. It's what Trump's been doing, because at the start Trump was hitting Biden from the left on a lot of cases. Again, with like the crime bill, with like new stimulus checks. He even floated like a Medicare for all plan, or like the idea of that at one press conference at one point. That sort of like threw Biden off. Then when Trump took this like hard turn to the right, Biden had nothing to do but follow him, and that's what Biden's done. When Trump turns to the right, he would have had the perfect opportunity to go left, but instead he just kind of followed and got dragged behind.
Yes.
I think he's a weaker candidate for that.
Yes, I think everybody here is voting for Biden and would definitely like to see an end to the Trump years, but
definitely.
I think he has shot himself in the foot. Mm-hmm. He has let the first of all, I just want to say I think if Biden doesn't win, I'm not one of those guys who's hysterical about everything about like, oh, if Trump doesn't steal the election but still wins and wins by like a clear like over 100 electoral vote lead over him, something like that, or he gets really close in the popular vote, because I assume Biden's going to win the popular vote no matter what. I think that's a fair assumption to make. Yeah. But say like Trump gets really close or even wins the popular vote, it will like prove that material realities do not matter when people vote anymore. Like, because when you think about it, if you gave this economy and this crisis we're in right now to any other incumbent president, they'd get floored. They'd get cremated. We're talking.
Yeah, it'd be Hoover.
We're talking Herbert Hoover levels of defeat. Yeah. Like George Bush Sr. had one of the most minor tepid recessions in '92, and it was fixed by Election Day, and he still got beat by Bill Clinton, obviously, an incumbent president, and it's harder and harder to dethrone an incumbent these days.
No, exactly.
But so if you took Trump out of the equation, Biden would be polling like by like 60 points, probably.
Yeah.
And the fact that Trump could win, and he could win by pretty big margins, Biden needs to like trounce him, or else it'll be like a very, very. It'll prove that material conditions aren't influencing people's. Everybody says people vote with their wallets. They obviously won't if they're going to vote for Donald.
Yeah, no, I think that anything, I don't want to say anything short of Biden just absolutely annihilating Trump, but like, if Trump does come to win this election, I think we will see the end of the Democratic Party as we know it. I think that choosing Biden has alienated enough left-wing progressives from the party that we will see like a sharp cut. If Biden loses, there are people that will no longer say like, I'm part of the party of like Tom Perez and Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton.
Oh yeah.
And they're going to take a turn and be like, I'm part of the party of AOC. I'm part of the Bernie Sanders party.
Do you think anything would come of this Nina Turner's People's Party he's trying to start on
I don't know. It's really hard to say where it would go from there, because the way that the two-party system has been built up, and everyone loves to like harp on the two-party system, and there's really no successful way out of it without an actual reform of how our government works. So it's really difficult to say what would end up happening. I feel like it would either be the left-wing progressives take over the Democratic Party, or what's left of it, or the like right-wing sort of like neoliberal segment just fastens their grip on it and forces like a solid quarter to third of the party to go progressive independent.
You don't think with an electoral defeat like Trump winning and having a considerable mandate, like say he sweeps all of the states that he won last time and picks up like a few more, like New Mexico or whatever. Like, would that not be enough of an indictment for the right wing of the Democratic Party to like pick up and leave?
No. No, I think that the right wing of the Democratic Party isn't the Democratic voters, it's the Democratic establishment and a lot of
Certainly.
big donors, a lot of the old guard Democrats, the ones that have been in Washington for years. And I don't think they're going to pack their bags and leave anytime soon unless you make them. So it's all the people with like undue influence over electoral politics that are the ones that are interested in this neoliberal experiment. And if they see Joe Biden lose, they're not going to think, oh, we should go left. They're going to think, oh, we need someone else. We need Beto O'Rourke with this platform.
Yeah.
We need Pete Buttigieg with this platform.
Oh, that's depressing, but I definitely agree. Yeah, but
It's the Joe Kennedy idea. Like, oh, people will like not notice if they don't have progressive politics if they're a young person. No, we notice. People of Massachusetts noticed that Joe Kennedy III wasn't a progressive like Markey, and he lost because of it.
and actually, yeah, you're getting into the Senate race, so that happened a while ago.
Yeah.
But I noticed this. If you look at the record of Ed Markey, he's not exactly Bernie Sanders. He's not a very progressive guy. He's a pretty moderate guy who was in the situation realized that the only way out was a radical change, and I'm referring to his climate change policies. He realized a Green New Deal.
He's in the Warren camp.
Yes. Okay. I think he would even be more moderate than Liz Warren. But the point I'm trying to make is he did a bit more than paid lip service, but he mostly just paid lip service. Like he had a few contributions to, but the progressive movement still went to the battlements for this guy, and they went to the war, and they laid siege on Ed Markey's campaign, or on Joe Kennedy's campaign for someone who isn't undeserving per se, but definitely like their resources could be allocated in better places. You could also argue, and I sort of feel like why isn't Biden picking up on that?
Yeah, no, that's one thing is Ed Markey wasn't even endorsed by Bernie Sanders. He didn't make enough concessions for Bernie to out and out like endorse him. I think if you saw Joe Biden actually make some more substantial policy concessions, not that he hasn't already, but like if he actually made a push to be left wing, I think a lot of people would be willing to stick their neck out for Joe Biden that normally wouldn't. If he came out, say, with like a plan like, here, I will adopt the Green New Deal as it is written by the Sunrise Movement, like the whole 9 yards, he would get a lot of support. Not only like a lot of support, like I would go to the polls for him, but he would get a lot of people that would actually canvass for him, a lot of people that would go out and make calls for him.
Yes, and that's what the Biden campaign is lacking, and I think that's why they need people on the ground. People are going to vote for him, but they're not inspired enough to, And I think if you're like a young person who is actually inspired with the campaign as it is right now, you like need help. Like there's nothing, he's giving nothing. There's so many op-eds out there, like not op-eds, but like articles written, like every somewhat progressive thing he says is like campaign is admitted, oh, that's bullshit. We're just doing that to get the Warren people to vote for us.
Yeah, and that's the tough thing about him is that as an issues campaign, Joe Biden's issues are bring back decency in politics, and I don't know, you can get paid a little more. We'll raise the minimum wage. And minimum wage, that's a good start. But if he actually made it about policies, I mean, that's one thing people loved Elizabeth Warren for. I mean, she essentially had the pretty similar policies to Bernie Sanders and articulated them pretty similarly, but the fact that her and her campaign just kept beating on the fact, like, Liz Warren has a plan. These are her policies. This is Liz Warren's plan. Like 2% wealth tax, all of that stuff. It wasn't just like campaign messaging that was platitudes like we need to bring back the old America. It was just straight up black and white policy. This is what I am going to do. This is how it benefits you. That sort of deal. And now I'm not saying that like it doesn't work to be like, geez, Trump is a really bad guy. You shouldn't vote for him. But we all know that at that point, or at this point. No one's like looking at this election and thinking, I didn't know Trump was really that bad until I saw this Joe Biden ad. We all know it. Just tell us what you're going to do. Give us some policies to be attached to, something to care about other than I'm not Trump. And again, that was his biggest weakness in the primary, is he wasn't Donald Trump and expected that to be enough.
His pitch to voters was on the most electable, and he came in like fourth place in Iowa, fifth place in New Hampshire. Anyway, I don't want to relive that. That's a dark time.
Yeah.
But
The primary was no good.
yeah, he does have a policy. He wants to increase funding for the police. How's that not exciting you? Shouldn't we be rallying behind that? He's promised to increase funding for police officers, our boys in blue. That's what the Democratic Party should definitely stand for at this moment in time.
Yeah, no, if we...
Biden's back in the blue.
Honestly, any progressive policy, like Medicare for all, Green New Deal, just saying one of them would absolve him of the crime of being bad on like most other issues in the eyes of a lot of leftists.
And it's so fucked up that he wouldn't even have to pass these things once he won. He would just have to campaign on them.
Yeah.
But I guess maybe that's to his credit. He's honest.
Yeah.
He has promised you nothing, and he's not a snake oil salesman.
That's true. I mean, he's not making promises he's not going to keep. He's saying, hey, things will go back to the Obama administration. Maybe it'll even be marginally better. And I guess that's good enough for me at this point, but you could promise more and you could get a lot
It's
more.
unacceptable under every circumstances, but it's certainly like just what we're up against.
Yeah, this is the only circumstance that's an acceptable like campaign to run.
Yeah, and it's painful to say that because you feel like you're abandoning everything you believe in. But the morbid curiosity I've had with like how far will Trump go is over, and like it needs to,
Yeah, that ended in 2017. Honestly.
Yes, yeah.
It's like, oh, geez, look, we got the orange man in the White House. How bad could this be? Pretty bad. It turns out it can be pretty bad. Yeah, not a big fan of that.
How do you feel about Bernie? Bernie's getting involved. He's saying that is seeing the tide change, and he thinks Biden's losing, so he's trying to get involved and help. And of course, all the DNC, like ex-Hillary staffers, were like, "Why should we take advice from this loser?" But he's saying Biden should focus more on, like they call, I think, dinner table issues, bread and butter issues.
Yeah, that's what Bernie Sanders has been good at, and that's what Biden doesn't have. Is these, again, it's policy that matters to people. Green New Deal, Medicare for all. Those are the big two. Those matter to people. You can see the effects,
especially young people.
Exactly. And I guess the thing with young people is we've never been reliable turning out to the polls, so they don't even bother trying to court us. But...
And I would say old people are more concerned with platitudes and things like that.
And to the point that Bernie's a loser, these are the same people that ran the Hillary Clinton campaign.
And the Elizabeth Warren campaign.
And the Warren campaign, yeah. Bernie lost two primaries. Hillary Clinton just flung probably the easiest, downright easiest presidential election in recent memory. That should have been a slam dunk.
Right. Shouldn't all the people that played a role in the Clinton campaign and lost to Donald Trump, shouldn't they all lose their jobs? Should they never work again if you lost to Donald Trump?
You would think so, but that's not how the DNC works,
is it? The DNC is like a false meritocracy where you just have the idiot sons and daughters of ex people that were part of the Watergate investigations or whatever, failing upwardsly. I can't imagine what does it take to see this and want to partake in it?
Yeah. Yeah. And again, all of Biden's benefits are characterized by the man he's running against, who, I think if we want to move on to our next topic, has made some interesting statements, or at least some interesting statements have come out recently.
Hold on, let me take a look at your notes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those comments.
This is old, but
I think it's still interesting, still worth talking about.
Because of purely how funny it is, but yeah, let's dive right into Trump and the World War I veterans. What did he call them all? He called them all suckers and losers.
Yeah. Ironic coming from the man that was just endorsed by the Bay of Pigs veterans.
Oh yeah, yes. That we'll talk about that right after. Yeah. Uh, so apparently, there's all these stories coming out that Donald Trump, like, he was walking with Mike Kelly and his son, or John Kelly, whatever, and his son died in Afghanistan, and they were like at his grave. And Trump like threw up his arms in exasperation and was like, "What was the point of all this? What was worth it? What did they get out of it?" Or just said something like that. And he called when he was going to that World War One memorial in France. He's like, "I don't want to go because they were all losers and suckers."
Yeah, and this has been going on for a while with all of his disparaging remarks about John McCain.
Yeah.
That's always
So
been going on.
the gist is, Trump thinks anybody who serves in the military and dies is like a jerk off, like a punk, like
Yeah, he
got
thinks
duped.
you've been like tricked into joining the military, and you're really on the. He sees it as the art of the deal, and you're
Yeah.
the sucker.
Yeah, it's sort of like and that brings up a great point about class,
Oh, absolutely.
obviously. So you take a look at Donald Trump, and you shouldn't be surprised at all that he thinks that.
Oh no.
Makes perfect sense. But this is the issue Biden wants to run with. This is the ad that this is where he's been focusing all of his attention on something that we really don't know happened. John Bolton says it didn't happen, and John Bolton's not exactly a huge fan of
I
Trump
think John
these
Bolton
days.
said some of it happened, or at least John Bolton was making a big point of other like cases of it happening.
Maybe I know he said that the France thing didn't happen, but he wouldn't be surprised if it did, etc. That's what the Biden campaign wants to focus. Will Trump lose any support because of these comments?
I think some. I think you'll see it eroding in some of the on the fence people.
All right, wait,
especially
but
in like blue collar
people who were planning to vote for him anyway.
No, I don't think he's going to be losing any supporters. No one that's a strong Trump supporter will either A, believe this, or B, change their mind because of it. And I think the first point is more concerning than the other. The fact that a lot of his sycophants have sort of come to believe that any sort of bad press for Donald Trump just isn't true. It's just not real.
Okay.
They'll reject it as falsehood.
Yes, absolutely. But this isn't like the Access Hollywood tape thing where there's literal video proof of it. That's the thing. This is largely a story based on conjecture.
Yeah.
This is a he said, he said.
Yeah. And now the second Trump comment to talk about is the Bob Woodward.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's number 2. He's been on a hot streak.
So yeah, basically now Bob Woodward released a book where Trump admitted to Bob Woodward. First of all,
and this is something they do have the tape of.
If you're a president, why would you let the guy who killed Richard Nixon's like career interview you? That doesn't make any sense.
So I actually was listening to some ex-Obama staffers talking about how Bob Woodward does this. Basically, he like walks into the office and he has like all these documents that should be classified and says, "Hey, I have all these things that happened. You want to give me any comments before I release my book?" And the White House basically has to make the decision, okay, do we explain this or do we let him just write whatever he's going to write? And I guess the first time the Trump administration let him write whatever he was going to write, and Trump was not happy with that. He was not happy at all, so he specifically told the White House press, "I will talk to Bob Woodward. I will set the record straight."
Okay,
and so
all
they had
right,
a series
all
of
right.
one-on-one phone calls.
So Bobby W still gets deep throated. Basically, he still
Yeah,
gets
he's still out there.
he still has deep throats like coming to him and giving him information. He takes it to the president's desk.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, because if I am ever elected president, my first reaction would be like, I'd keep me as far from Bob Woodward as possible.
Oh, certainly.
I feel like that's the. Is Bernstein still alive?
I don't know if Bernstein's still alive.
He's sort of like the Frederick Engels of Watergate. He gets
Yeah.
none of the credit.
Hey, he was in All the President's Men, so
I still have
I
to see that
remember.
movie. I want to see it.
It's a classic.
Yeah.
Love that movie.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to his actual statements.
Okay. Yes. Now there is video proof of this, or
Yeah,
recording
it's recorded.
proof.
But he knew how bad it was from the beginning. He said
Yes.
5% death rate, more transmission or more transmissible than the flu. He was worried about it in the interview. He sounds maybe not scared, but definitely concerned.
Right. He admitted that the COVID-19, which has engulfed our entire nation and holds it in like a death grip, was going to do that.
Yeah.
And people are criticizing Trump for because his public persona was like, who cares? It's like a flu. It's like a bad flu. Who cares?
Yeah.
And people are criticizing Bob Woodward for sitting on this for months. So we got to proceed. Let's take those two criticisms forward. First, Trump. I'm really surprised by this.
Mm-hmm.
You're surprised by this. I'm not. I mean, it's shitty, but I kind of know that that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with, an evil idiot.
I've fallen into the sort of belief that Trump lies, but usually you get the gist of what he thinks, and I thought he genuinely believed it wasn't going to be that bad. I thought he was just deluded. More worried now that it turns out he knew how bad it was and covered it up, but I thought we were genuinely just dealing with an idiot.
Yeah,
in the White House.
Fair enough. I guess that's true. Also, he has a few instincts that I would call good, but they're only because he's worried about getting reelected and his approval ratings and all those things. I think a good example is his unwillingness to go to war. He has he knows that war can be very unpopular very fast. If you get in and get out really quick, you'll be loved, but if it turns into an Iraq, you'll be hated.
That's why the neocons started abandoning him.
Yes. That's an entire episode on its own. The Vietnam Democrats who supported the Vietnam War going to the Republican Party, taking control of the Republican Party for decades, and now after Trump has been reelected, they are returning en masse to the Democratic Party, to their original homeland.
Maybe we'll do a special episode eventually on John Bolton's new book, and then compare it with the copy of Henry Kissinger's Diplomacy that I have right here.
That would force me to read John Bolton's book, and I certainly don't want to do that. I still haven't read the Fire and Fury book. Who was that one?
Was that Wolf?
Yeah, somebody like that guy who wrote that Trump. It was insane. It was all lies, but it was so entertaining and funny.
Yeah.
He kind of got a pass.
Yeah, that was the one that people were amazed at the time, and they were filing lawsuits against. But then I didn't read it when it came out. Actually, it would be really funny to read it now because that's 3 years ago.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that'd be an interesting read. Because since then we've learned a lot about the Mueller investigation and all that good stuff. But
yeah. That's where the Gorilla Channel bit came from, where Trump has Trump was insistent that there was a channel on TV that just had gorillas and gorilla based, and so the White House staff faked a gorilla channel by taking pieces from old nature documentaries and stitching them together to make a monkey / ape channel. And Trump would watch it for hours, glued to the screen. Anybody would complain because there weren't enough clips of the apes fighting, so they would have to take out scenes where the apes weren't fighting and just make a gorilla fighting channel.
That is bizarre. I do not recall that at all.
Oh no, it was fake. But just very funny.
Man. Yeah. Yeah, but you raised a good question earlier with Bob Woodward and the ethics of sitting on this tape.
Yeah.
Is he trying to influence the election? Is that what this is? Is he trying to hold the late term surprise in his hand?
I mean, it's September. Okay, if he was doing that, I think he would have waited till October.
Yeah, you think
because we haven't even had our first debate yet. So
That's
obviously this is not going to affect the election at all. It should. In a sane world, it would. But we're living in, this is going to sound very TDS-y of me, but we're living in Trump's America.
Yeah.
And if early September, no. No. That's why I don't think the conventions matter either. I'm like, it's like when a person, undecided voter, goes into the voting booth, do you think they're thinking about a speech they heard in August from Michelle Obama?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, so this was way too early to affect the election, but I think it raises a question of journalistic integrity. Now, I've always advocated for putting all journalists into gulags.
I know you have.
And so, does this strengthen my case that all journalists should be, arrested and made to pay for their awful crimes? Or are you going to be contrarian and say that this is good, actually? Let's see.
Oh, no, I don't think this is good, actually. I think this is just Bob Woodward doing his... Honestly, you know why he released it now?
Huh.
To promote his book.
Yes, obviously.
It's coming
yes.
out in a week.
And you're going to get it. You pre-ordered it.
And I'm not going to get Bob Woodward's book. Yeah. There are very few people whose memoirs I buy.
I guess destroying Richard Nixon would make anybody feel very, very full of themselves.
Yeah.
That was quite an undertaking.
Yeah. I mean, any reporter that was there and helped with Watergate's got to feel pretty cocky.
Yeah,
even 50 years later.
That's the problem with journalists. That's why they've become I would say arguably worse than Trump these days, is because Trump gives them an enemy, so now they're drunk on virtue. They're like, how dare you? We report the truth, and we're all... because Trump would always pull that stuff where he'd kick CNN out of press conferences or whatever.
Yeah, they really liked that.
Yes, they I call it drunk on virtue.
Yeah, they... Honestly, every person needs a good villain, and they had their villain, and... You know what? I think it was better for Trump than it was for them.
Yes, obviously. But also, I feel like, what are they going to do without him? Like, like, my dad always says, man, it's crazy that the president's on TV every day. Normally, it's just, like, once a week you'd hear, like, what the president was doing. And then that would be, like, 5 minutes of the news.
No, that's actually that's interesting to think about. I mean, they say the 24-hour news cycle was built for 9/11. That's what Jon Stewart always says.
Yes.
It was built to handle 9/11s, and they filled it with whatever was going on in the meantime. 24 hours news networks were built for Donald Trump.
Oh, yeah.
Promoting Donald Trump. And once Donald Trump goes away, if Donald Trump goes away, God forbid, what are they going to do?
Yeah.
Are you going to show like hour-long clips of Joe Biden? Are you going to be talking about Joe Biden every day? Is there enough to talk about when it comes to Joe
Certainly
Biden to
not.
have him on TV all the time?
No, certainly not. This is like, if Biden gets elected, it will immediately go back to like Obama era, like shit. And I think they would be even more secretive because Biden is, kind of old, and obviously he can't handle being on camera for a very long time. Interviews, he does terribly. He interviews terribly. So I think it's good reason to suspect that Biden will do his best to avoid cameras if elected. Mm-hmm. Kamala Harris will probably be on the TV a lot to get ready for a run for 2024. But I think that would be it. I think the administration would definitely be more secretive than...
Yeah. Quick update, sort of going back to the campaign. I just got a notification saying White House has released an executive order calling for Medicare to pay the same prescription prices as other developed nations, opposed to what drug makers wanted. Mentioned it way at the beginning, but flanking Biden from the left while hammering him on the right.
That is a great campaign strategy.
Yeah.
That's
what's going to do Biden in if he loses. It's going to be Trump's ability to just hit the racism and the populism.
That is a very populist position.
He can make people support him. He promises things that will materially benefit the people of the United States.
That's normally I hate it when you try to change the subject, but this is very interesting. So Medicare will now be forced to pay the same rates as
the same
civilized nations.
Yeah, because what was it? It's Medicare was limited to not negotiate drug prices.
Okay.
And now they're actually competing and saying, okay, we'll buy your drugs, but we actually have to buy them at competitive rates.
Okay. Okay. So that's obviously the cost of prescriptions and drugs, life-saving drugs like insulin. That's obviously a big deal for a lot of Americans.
Yeah, this is something that people will see materially in their daily life.
Yes, if it goes through and all that, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, depending on what form it takes, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a big executive order that does nearly nothing.
Yes, that is sort of the Trump style, but
Same thing with like the wall, allocating
Yes.
money to the wall. He made a big deal out of it.
Yes,
But we're
yes.
exactly where we were 4 years ago.
but in politics, perception is reality. It doesn't matter. Like if enough people on the news and even the fringe news sources hammer home the point that Trump is to the left of Biden, even if it's total bullshit, people are going to believe it.
Yep.
Oh, you could do that about anybody. During the primary, you could have been like, Biden's actually to the left of Bernie. And if you could come up with one or two random examples.
They were saying about Kamala when she was picked as VP that she has the
Oh,
more
she's so
progressive
far to the
voting
left.
record.
Yeah. She's, yeah. Kamala is like, yeah, Karl Marx is a bi-POC woman.
Yeah, didn't her own dad like not denounced her, but her dad didn't endorse her because he's a actual activist.
Oh,
like,
is he?
Marxist.
Oh, interesting.
Same thing with Buttigieg with his dad.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Yeah,
Both
anybody's
of them
parents.
have parents much farther to the left than they are.
That's funny. Yeah, I can't imagine being proud of either of those people as a parent. So yeah, obviously like Biden would never do that. Wouldn't dream it on his best day. But Trump's done it. And like you said, it could amount to nothing. It probably will. I'm sure Trump's just doing this literally just
He likes the attention.
he likes the attention, and he will be able to get credit. Like, I did this, and, everybody else said they were going to do it. Nobody else did it. I did it. And, yeah, he definitely counts his chickens a lot before the eggs hatch. Is that how the saying goes? What is it?
It counts his chickens before they hatch.
I gotcha. Okay, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, another red letter day for the Trump family.
Yeah. I mean, we've hit time, so you think that's all for this week?
What are we at? 47 minutes?
Yeah.
I think that's good. I
Yeah.
think that's good. I'm glad we weren't able to... Oh, no, we weren't able to talk about Tesla stocks.
Yeah. No, that was interesting. We'll save that one for later. See how the
Oh,
market
yeah,
develops.
that should be its own episode. I'm sure very invigorating. Yeah, I'm reading Jack's notes. There's some interesting things in there.
Yeah.
Iraq War pop culture. That'll be fun. That could be its own episode.
Yeah.
Because sort of like I feel like we have a unique perspective on that for being too young to understand it when it first came out.
No, exactly. We grew up in that propaganda.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well,
Yeah. Any topics you want to hear about, just comment them
yeah,
on the pod.
DM me on Twitter too, at Collington Sam.
Yeah.
I will probably get back to you. You can email Jack or text him at boo.
Yeah. So feel free to reach out.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and show this podcast to your friends, please.
Yeah. Thanks. It's been a good one.
Yeah, this is okay. This is permissible, I think.
All right. Talk to you next week.
See ya.